bromance between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin maybe seemed to be souring a little. The Russian put so much into getting Donald Trump into the White House, mostly so he could help them with their agenda. One of the big promises made by Michael Flynn after Obama slapped sanctions on them for interfering in the United States election is to lift those sanctions after Trump took over in the White House. Well, last week was a disappointing blow for Putin because Congress created a legislation that would put even more sanctions on Russia than before. Now, you would think since Trump and Russia are BFFs, that he would just veto that bill so he could get down to the business of lifting sanctions. But here's where the thing gets a little wacky. They passed the sanctions bill 492 to 2. So with an overwhelming majority, Trump can veto it. However, the law can still be passed because of the overwhelming number of votes. So the Congress basically tied Trump's hands to his feet. If he votes against it, then Putin would still like him. However, the sanctions would happen anyway, and the American people would be like, why did you veto that? But then if he signs it, then Putin will probably call him weak. However, the Russians have already called him weak, so he went ahead and signed it. Meanwhile, Russia slapped its own sanctions on the U.S., kicking out hundreds and hundreds of staff and shutting down the U.S. vacation house and their storage unit they had there. Although it's true that the United States has imposed sanctions. However, they didn't meddle in the Russian elections. I'm just saying. The new national polls are out on Trump. The first poll is President Trump is that, if I remember right, 61% do not approve of the job that Trump is doing. 62% said he's not honest. 71% said he's not level-headed. And 57% believe he is abusing power. And then there's one more. 54% are embarrassed to have Donald Trump as the president. But continues to say the country is doing better than it ever had with him as president, according to him. According to Donald Trump, he is the best president in history. Remember last week when we said that the Boy Scouts sent out an apology letter at the National Jamboree because the parents expressed their anger at him for telling the boys to, Trump told the Wall Street Journal that his speech was a huge success. He said, I got a call from the head of the Boy Scouts saying it was the greatest speech that was ever made to them. To which the Boy Scouts told the Associated Press, we're really unaware of any call. So the question is, why did Trump lie about getting a call and about how great his speech was from the Boy Scouts? When reporters pressed the White House press secretary on the matter, she said, in terms of the Boy Scouts, multiple members of the Boy Scout leadership following his speech on that day praised him. She went on to say, they were direct conversations, not actual phone calls. To which a reporter said, so why did Trump lie about it? And she responded, well, I wouldn't exactly call it a lie. Trump also boasted about the new GDP numbers that just came out, touting that 2.6 in growth number was a number that was unbelievable, and no one ever thought that it would ever be that high. However, the news people on basically every major network jumped on that, saying that under the Obama administration, the GDP hit 2.6 14 times and went even as high as 2.9. Also, remember back at the beginning of the Trump presidency, Donald Trump was calling all the world leaders, telling them the crowd sizes and stuff like that. Well, there were two calls that did not go so well. One to Mexico and one to Australia. Now, he stated after those calls with Mexico that he worked it out, the differences with the president, and the president of Mexico would pay for the giant wall he was planning to build. But then the president of Mexico said, what? We're not going to pay for that wall. So it became one of those, he said kind of things. Because who can really believe who and what they said on the phone call? Then, in the call with Australia, Trump sort of said the same thing, that both presidents had, different accounts of what the conversation was about. Well, this week, someone leaked those private calls between Trump and the president of Mexico, and the Washington Post printed the entire transcripts of the calls. So the president of Mexico said, my position has been and will continue to be very firm, saying that Mexico cannot pay for that wall. To which Trump replied, but you cannot say that to the press. The press is going to go with that, and I cannot live with that. You cannot say that to the press. The fact is, we both are in a little bit of a political bind because I have to have Mexico pay for that wall. I have to. You cannot say to the press because I cannot negotiate under those circumstances. Then he after that, he goes off on some kind of bizarre rant on one of the smaller U.S. states saying, I won New Hampshire because New Hampshire is a drug-infested den. Now, in the Australian phone call, people said that Trump had lashed out at the Australian Prime Minister on the phone, but Trump denied that, saying, we had a great telephone call, you guys exaggerated that call, that was a big exaggeration, we're not babies. But as it turns out, there was an argument between the two over refugees that Obama had already agreed to take. Trump said, Malcolm, why is this so important? I do not understand. This is going to kill me. I'm the world's greatest person that I do not want to let these people into the country. Which, still, it's a very confusing statement. I mean, does that mean he's the world's greatest person because he won't let the refugees into the country? Or is he just the world's greatest person? He goes on to say, I hate taking these people. I guarantee you they are bad. They are not going to be wonderful people who go on to work for the local milk people. The Australian Prime Minister said they came in by boat, which we cannot allow under any circumstances, so we can't have them here if they arrive in a boat. Trump said, why are you so discriminating against boats? Oh, I get it. But then the Australian Prime Minister explained it to him. Then he says, I have had it. I have had it making these calls. I've been making these calls all day, and this is the most unpleasant call all day. Putin was a pleasant call. Anyway, that sort of ended that conversation.
She got a body like an hourglass, and I can give it to her all the time.